Dynasty price checks. We're talking about two more running backs here. Before we get into it, make sure to hit the like on the video, subscribe if you're not, and join the Discord. Link is in the description. We can put together some startup listener leagues. We do some team reviews, live rookie drafts, and all that fun stuff. So today, we're talking about two running backs, kind of getting a feel for what we should do for them, buy low, sell high, or just, not even necessarily that, but just overall thoughts on them. Jonathan Taylor, we're talking about, who just turned 26, I think maybe in January or December. No, just about less than 2 weeks ago, he turned 26 years old. So still relatively young, which is surprising because he's been in the league since 2020. You see there, we were a little bit surprised. I was surprised when making it RB5 in points per game, RB8 last year, even though, he missed time in both this year and last year, and was just like a monster down the stretch. Won people leagues potentially if he didn't lose you the league in that first week where he dropped that touchdown. But he was awesome to end the year. We were surprised that he had over 300 rush attempts and he missed 3 games. Had only 4 games where he didn't have 20 or more carries. Hit over 30 the end of the year twice, over 25 a bunch of times. So he's an interesting one. He's the keep trade cut RB8, RB7 now since I made this. So only Bucky, Brees, Achane, Barkley, Bijan, and Gibbs are over him. What are we doing with Jonathan Taylor? Is he kind of right where he should be? Is he maybe it's time to get out of him if you can? Or you just kind of keep riding this? And like we said, he's going to be on the Colts this year for sure. And he was the RB5, and the Colts just weren't really good, had issues with Anthony Richardson. If he can ever put it together and they can put together a pretty good offense, that could be even he could be one of those guys that gets 20 touchdowns. And one more thing before I let you go, it's easy to forget he had one of the best like pure rushing seasons like we've ever seen, over 1,800 rushing yards. There's not many running backs that hit that number. So Jonathan Taylor, what are you thinking with him? Is he appropriately ranked at that RB7 range, or should he be a little bit lower, a little bit higher?
I think he's in an appropriate group. It's a big group for sure. I wouldn't necessarily put all of these guys in that same group, but yeah, I mean, like you said, like when you actually like dig into his stats a little bit, the dude's just really good. Like he's basically Derrick Henry light. Because no one's Derrick Henry except Derrick Henry.
Yeah.
But he can easily have that same. How do I want to say this? Kind of like career trajectory. Like not necessarily that I think he's going to play for that long. The spider's back. It's just shooing him away.
Call back.
Yeah. Right. Call back to the QB video. He's not going to catch the ball because he doesn't really get targeted very much. Like we saw, it can be part of his game, but that's just not what's going to happen with Anthony Richardson at the helm. So, and that's okay. Like, I mean, obviously we'd love to see the catches there as well, but, you can't count on it for sure. Mm-hmm. So that's a bummer, but again, he's just so good as a pure rusher that it's hard to discount him. So I'd say appropriately ranked. He is 26 years old, like exactly. So he must have just had a birthday. Like there's no 10th of
January 19th.
Yeah, there you go. I like Jonathan Taylor right here.
It's funny because like his rushing numbers are almost like this year were almost just as good as 2021 when he had that 1,800 yard year, 106.5 yards per game that year, 102.2 this year rushing. That's pretty insane. I know he had that big 200 yard rushing game, but he was still putting up 100 yards more often than not. I want to say, like, I think I remember hearing like Derrick Henry is the only running back to have like two 1,800-yard seasons. So like he almost did that. I don't think he quite would have gotten there even if he played those 3 games, but who knows? Like maybe if he has a big game or something. Yeah, he's an interesting one for sure. I think he is really damn good, and I think it's interesting that Bucky is ahead of him. He's like, and even Brees to a certain extent. I know that's basically because of age, but like we haven't seen Brees get close to kind of these type of numbers over a whole season.
Yeah.
Bucky was good, but like we haven't seen it from Bucky either. Like obviously he's only had 1 year, so I don't know. Again, they're in that same tier. But
it's funny that you bring those two guys up too, because like in half PPR, these guys I think are a lot closer.
Yeah, for sure.
And obviously in non PPR, like you want Taylor, or standard, I guess, not non PPR, but I thought I was thinking the same thing about Bucky, and it's like, would I rather have Bucky over Jonathan Taylor? And it's like, I think I'm still going to take Taylor, but if it's full PPR, you got to go with Bucky, I think. But it's close.
Probably. It is, and people are going to kind of freak out about that, but like you can't really look at like Dynasty is played again as much as we think it's a 10-year window or even a 5-year window. It's a 2 to 3 year window, and no one's going to be surprised if Jonathan Taylor's better than Bucky for the next 2 to 3 years. So, so that's the argument to take Taylor over Bucky. Would you take the 104 this year or Jonathan Taylor, like right in that range, 104, 105, or Jonathan Taylor?
Yeah, I mean, I guess that's probably pretty much where he goes, right? Like, just depends on where your team's at. Like, I would take the pick if I was rebuilding, but contender, I'm just rolling with Jonathan Taylor. If I'm a contender and I have the 105 for some reason, I would trade that for Taylor. I can definitely see that argument.
And then just in a vacuum, because it's always depends on team and stuff, but just in a vacuum, like not really knowing what do you lean towards?
Yeah. I guess if I knew, so I don't know the rookies as well as you, but I'm just going to go ahead and say, like in a super flex league, it's going to be, Genty, the 2 quarterbacks, and Tet that go first. So you're basically he's basically either Tet McMillan / RB2 is what I'm thinking,
There's a really good chance it starts off like running back. That's not super important, I guess, but because there's a huge range of guys from like the 102 to like the 108 that could go, in my opinion, especially if it's tight end premium. But
the landing spots are really
Go ahead.
The landing spots are going to be really important there, because you could potentially just be like, shaving 3 or 4 years off a high-end running back like right away. Obviously, there's always a risk taking the unknown versus, that's door number 2 versus you already have like the new car or the slightly used car, I guess, with Jonathan Taylor. So yeah, it's risky for sure, but I think I would take Taylor.
Yeah, so the reason why you make that trade, because I think a lot of people are on the Taylor side there. The reason why you would make a trade like that is just because you're probably getting kind of what you'll like. Will he ever be worth the 105 again? Probably not. Maybe if he has another big year or something, but the age is always going to bring him down a tad, right? Like it's very rare for a guy like Saquon Barkley, who's 28 years old, to be the RB3. Like it's those special guys that have special seasons. And so I guess the logic behind taking the pick is that you're basically saying I'm going to get younger and I'm potentially going to get a prospect that has maybe a better chance to get into a top 5 in their position than Jonathan Taylor, right?
Sure.
So that's like the logic behind it. So I don't think there's a right or wrong answer there, but
I think the safe bet is, basically, 1,400 yards. I was going to say as the floor, but that's pretty high floor, but 1,400 total yards kind of thing, is like kind of what he's been giving you like year in and year out, with the upside of going much higher than that.
Yeah. Has it been? I feel like its floor is even a little higher than that.
Yeah, I was just kind of ballparking it, like that's like a little safe, I think. I mean, in 10 games, he basically had 900 total yards in 2023.
Okay, here's a sorry to interrupt, but I remember Pro Football Reference does this. I think it's new. I never noticed it before, except for a couple weeks ago. They do like a 17 game average based on your career, and so his 17 game average is 1,500 rushing yards, 13 touchdowns, 36 catches, 277 yards. So 1,800 total yards and 14 touchdowns is basically.
Okay. That's actually kind of surprising. I knew 1,400 was kind of low, but it's always like a little risky, I think, to say someone has a 1,400 yard floor, I guess, but I mean, he is a running back and he's a workhorse, like you said, like basically good for 20 carries a game. Like you could pencil that in, so not as crazy as we think, I guess.
Yeah, and basically his 3 healthy seasons and healthy, like only missing 2 or 3 games is kind of healthy for a running back. He's hit that. His rookie year, he hit that. He had the big 2,100 total yard year in 2021. And then this last year over almost over 1,550. And then, 900 and 1,000 in the games where he missed significant time, 7 and 6 games.
Yeah. And like you just mentioned, like you kind of have to assume every running back's going to miss 2 or 3 games, like obviously not everyone does, but it's rare. More often than not, they'll play 14, not 17.
Yeah. Yeah, he's definitely an interesting one. I do think he still could have, if the Colts can put it together with Anthony Richardson, like I wouldn't be surprised that if he has a season like he just did, where he basically averaged over 100 scrimmage yards a game, 100 rushing yards, and then whatever he gives you through the air, this year it was only like 10 yards or something, but 100, let's just say 115 total yards per game or more. And then he gets a plus touchdown year. Like it could definitely happen. So, and maybe he goes up because of that. Who knows? Aaron Jones is the next one. He's really interesting. 30 years old. So we're automatically, he'll be 30, I believe, most of the he just turned 30. So he'll be 30 basically this entire year. We've seen guys be successful, very few, but we've seen guys be successful. But he's coming off a really damn good year. This is his second best year was last year in terms of total yards, 1,546. So 7 touchdowns, which is down a bit. Not from recently years, but just down for, a top tier guy. And he catches the ball. He had 50 catches and that's kind of what he does. Like he had going all the way back to 2019, 49, 47, 52, 59, 30, but he missed 5-6 games and then 51. So you see the points per game there, 12.7. And he was the RB20, which is funny because in 2022, he averaged 12.9. He was the RB11. So I think that a little bit shows just how good running backs were this year. And he doesn't have a team, though. He's the RB35. I think he's going to continue to fall. I'm just going to start off here. I think he's going to be one of those buy low guys because I guess it depends on what team he goes to. But, rookies are going to get added into the database. And I'd imagine there's at least 5, maybe more rookies that are going to be ahead of him just from as soon as they get added. And so he's going to go, I bet you in the middle of the year, he's going to fall, the middle of the offseason, he's going to fall closer to like RB40, RB45. So I think he'll be a buy at that point. And, we see it every year with these veteran guys who are, devalued. I mean, freaking Derrick Henry, I'll keep referencing it. Derrick Henry last year in February was the RB35, January 22nd, RB35. just right around this time last year. He was right where Aaron Jones is, and look at him now. So he's an interesting one. I think he can stick around a little bit longer because he can catch the ball pretty well. But does it depend on the team for you? Is it like you need him back on the Vikings, or you want him? Like, how are you viewing Aaron Jones at this point?
I mean, yeah, like I didn't realize they only gave him a 1-year contract. I mean, I know he has a void year this year, but that's the same thing. I don't know how to think about him. Like, I don't need him to be on the Vikings, but I preferably like on a good offense. Like if he goes to the Raiders, we're gonna be really sad. Like, I don't know. Like,
Yeah.
I just like he never really was like he was definitely the best running back in Green Bay, but he was never that like super workhorse guy consistently. It's like he would get taken off the field quite a bit for AJ Dillon and stuff, and and he was still very, very efficient, and yeah, his pass catching is like what makes him, that's like kind of his superpower, like, but consistently just a great overall player like throughout the years. And honestly, the pass catching really helps him. Like, he doesn't have to be that 200 rush attempt guy necessarily to like still return value, especially at this. Like, this is just crazy. But again, it's the nature of the game, 30-year-old dude, but he hasn't shown you really that he's like slowing down necessarily. Like, so yeah, I think he's a good buy, but you're not buying now,
Yeah.
He's a perfect target if he's on basically a team who's going to go into rebuild. Like, I'd be cool throwing 2 seconds at Aaron Jones.
You mean when you're like closer to the season?
Closer to the season, yeah.
Yeah. I think you might not even have to get him. Like, he could be a perfect, again, there's a lot of guys ahead of him that I'm going to take the chance on Aaron Jones. Like, a Tajay Spears is RB28. Like, if someone wants to trade me Aaron Jones and like whatever they want to throw on top, and I give him Tajay Spears, like, I'll do it. I'll take that chance. Like, take Bigsby is another one. Jonathan Brooks, even like
Braylon Allen.
Braylon Allen, Jalen Wright. Like, I'll take my chances with Aaron Jones for a year because we have to value those guys. Trey Benson, even as well. Like, if someone were to give me a second and Aaron Jones for Trey Benson, like, I'd happily do that. Or
yeah, no, yeah. When I said I would pay 2 seconds for him, it's like, I think this is what you're driving at too. You're probably not going to have to, like, you can probably get him for straight up for a second in some instances. Like, if you throw out a second and a third, like, you might be able to get him there too. But I would pay the 2 seconds because, yeah, you might be only getting a year out of it, but it might be, hopefully it's the 212 both years,
Yeah. And like, he didn't really slow down. Like, his yards per attempt was still good, 4.5. It's under his career, but like, that's still really good. His yards per reception was his best, it was second best in his career and better than his career average at 8, so.
Yeah, definitely helps being on the Vikings for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, the most rush attempts he's ever had, like, he might have been on pace for similar. No, I don't see it. So in 2019, I guess he was basically kind of on pace, but still not his MO to get 250 rush attempts, and look how good he's been throughout the years.
Should him and Kamara be that far apart? Kamara's RB22. I know Kamara's been better over his career. Like, Kamara this year was better. He was the top 6, RB6 this year in points per game. Kamara last year was in 2023 RB5. So I guess that's the argument, but like, kind of the same ish model there, where like Kamara's going to be basically 30 this year for most of the year, or basically most of the year. I think before the year, actually.
Yeah.
So, for the football season, he'll be 30. They both catch the ball. I guess we know where Kamara's going to be, but that's the big difference.
Do we?
I don't know. It just feels, well, hopefully. It just feels like they shouldn't be like the way we're viewing Kamara. We should kind of view Aaron Jones in the same light a little bit, just like maybe a slightly less, not as good of a player overall. So,
Yeah, that's fair enough. Like, but I mean, I think that's he's a good one to throw out there as far as like look at him, and how like I mean, Kamara was basically the offense for excuse me, for the Saints this year, and it's not like he has to shy away from that. And look how good Aaron Jones has been, not ever being that necessarily. Obviously, he was a huge part of the offense when Rodgers was still in Green Bay and stuff, but he didn't have to be that. And still, what he finish as RB? 20 per game. 20 per game. I thought he was a little down there.
But then, like I said, if you look at 2022, where he basically averaged the same points, he was RB 11. So I think it was more just RBs were just better this year.
Sure.
I'm sure there's a couple guys in there that probably don't belong in there. Just kind of quickly looking. I guess not. Everyone kind of played a decent amount. So yeah, running backs are just better this year. So that's why he's a little bit lower, in my opinion. PPR, he's probably maybe a little bit higher. No, still RB20, but obviously averaging more. Yeah, he's an interesting one for sure. And I am going to be curious how the running back free agency market and the running back draft being really good, how that affects it and stuff. So, I don't think he's a buy now, but he's definitely like pay attention to him in July and stuff. And he'll continue to fall most likely. So, but that is it. We will be back with some wide receivers. Hopefully the spider's gone by then. Probably not. With some wide receivers. Yeah. And make sure to like and subscribe, and we will see you all in that video.